Hello everybody, my name is Eddie Haith. I'm from the Free State Film Festival in Lawrence, Kansas. And I'm here with Kadesh Flow, a rapper and trombonist from Kansas City, Missouri.
What's up?
That's good. For people who do not know you yet, how would you introduce Kadesh Flow in one sentence?
That's a great question. So, as Kadesh Flow, I am a rapper, singer, trombonist, producer who performs music, writes, composes, and performs music that lyrically deals with how I see the world, especially life moments, social cultural issues, global issues, but in a lot of cases that is from the lens of maybe an anime character or a video game character or sci-fi or fantasy character, and diving into how those people are experiencing the epics that are written around them and how those themes relate to the real world and what I'm experiencing in life. So that's
Amazing.
usually what you get from me as a performer.
So anime is a big inspiration.
Yeah, huge.
Amazing. You have built a serious reputation in Kansas City and beyond by blending jazz, hip-hop, and anime culture. What is something about the Kansas City music scene that people outside the city do not realize?
I don't know how you would understand this, but I don't think people outside of Kansas City, and a lot of people in Kansas City, understand how much of a world-class talent incubator this city is. And that there's a strong history of that. There's a strong jazz history here and a strong blues history here. And more recently, there's a lot of rap talent here. But I'd say that generally, artistically, Kansas City is one of those cities that is the off-market talent pool. Like if you are looking at places that are not LA, Chicago, New York, Atlanta, that are high level talent pools across genres, and I mean musically, I mean visual art wise, I mean theater, opera, dance, everything. Kansas City is that city, and it is a city from which a lot of talent gets mined. So even since I've been here 12 years, even the time that I've been here, I've known a boatload of people who have left for really huge opportunities. I mean, Grammy and Tony Award implication opportunities in Hollywood, in Atlanta, in France, in Italy. And I don't know that a lot of people I know didn't know that, including myself, until I got here, and now they're paying attention to me and they're like, don't you know this guy that just did this thing? It'll be like, oh yeah, I took a selfie with this guy, and then it's like, oh, this guy's on tour with Beyonce, blah blah. I think that's a thing that people really don't understand about Kansas City, and there's not a lot of infrastructure here, unfortunately, to have that industry output here, but there are a lot of people here who have that output, and they're either back and forth to all these places or they're doing it from here.
Yeah. KC has a wide range of talent.
Yeah.
How has being both a rapper and trombonist shaped your approach to performing live?
Being a rapper and a trombonist as a performer is something that I thought would be way more jarring to people, and it's more of like oh my god, you do that, and it's more endearing.
Right.
And that's been kind of one of the biggest surprises of my career as a professional musician. It has allowed me to kind of play ping pong from an opportunity standpoint, because there are doors that me as a rapper can open that me as a trombonist cannot, and then there are doors that me as a trombonist can open that me as a rapper cannot.
Yeah. And
that has allowed me to really just kind of pong myself through things.
Amazing.
Early on in my touring career, I was able to get into things I had no business getting into because I could horn section you. And fortunately, I have really close relationships with other rapper horn players from around the U.S., and we're in the same collective, the Nerdy People of Color Collective, or NPC Collective, and we go to these events, and there's two guys who play saxophone and rap, and then I play trombone and rap, and
it's got to be incredible.
yeah, so it'll be a rapper we have no business playing with, and they're like, oh, okay, you know, well, they're friends now, but at this point in time, we had no business playing with them, and they'd be like, oh, well, you know, if you want to play horns with us, you know, that would be kind of cool. And we'd be like, yeah, can you get us, like, credentials?
Yeah.
And then we'd basically network our way into situations from doing that. And then that turned into, like, oh, well, you're a dope MC. Well, you know, maybe I got the little slot. Got this little performance slot. You know, if you want to rock a set, and then like, just crush it, right? And then stuff moves from that. So it's really, I'd say more than anything, it's created more strategy for me, movement-wise, because both of those are just extensions of myself. I was 11 when I started doing both. I started rapping when I was 11. I started playing trombone like 2 weeks after I started rapping, or 2 weeks before I started rapping. I started middle school band. I wanted to make fart noises, and I chose trombone because of that. And then I was roasting the homie about their breath in the back of the school bus and wrote a rap about his breath. And that's how I started rapping. So they're both like extensions of this really childish version of myself that turned into things. So
as what you said, you know, you found yourself in places that you really shouldn't be in, but somehow it just worked out.
I would take that even further, because I wholeheartedly agree with that. I would say putting yourself in places you're not supposed to be in, and then putting yourself in a position to fail.
Yeah.
Because I think when you stop fearing failure, there's like a reckless abandon in a way that creates. That causes you to really go after things. Because if you're not worried about failing, then it's kind of every what if is a why not. And that changes the entire game, because you're not worried about crashing and burning if you accept the reality that you can crash and burn. And a lot of times in my journey, it has been if I can backtrack a bit, I ran away from myself as a musician for a while. And because it's not practical, quote unquote, and I have skill sets that can make me a lot of money, and I was working on my MBA. I got an MBA from the University of Alabama. It's a top 50 business school. I could have done a lot of things with that, but life kind of forced me to recognize that I can't get away from music. So then I made this really silly little decision where I said, the only way for me to live a practical climb the ladder life where I can go to my like VP or SVP trajectory and make all my money and live a quote unquote safe existence is if I hate music so much that I have to quote unquote break up with it. Yeah. Because I realized that I can't run away from it. And so then I started trying to fail at it. So I was just trying to do stuff. But the stuff worked. Yeah. And that's kind of what started a lot of the stuff that got me to this place. So I would say putting yourself in places you have no business being is really important, but I also think like running headfirst into failure, or the concept of failure, is also really critical too. Definitely. At least from my experience. So.
All right, let's get into Swamp Dogg. What's your thoughts about Swamp Dogg having its own documentary?
I think, generally speaking, it's hilarious. It seems like a goofy thing. I'm looking forward to seeing what actually happens in it. But I think it's cool to have musicians who have like cult followings or niche followings do things that allow the people paying attention to them to have a deeper lens into a piece of their life and process, in a way that also allows their audience to expand. So I think it's a really smart and cool move for him, for that, you know. But it also seems like a really funny situation. Yeah, so
I saw the trailer. It looks hilarious.
Yeah.
He seems like a great guy.
Kadesh here. Catch me next Thursday, June 26th at 6:30 p.m. for the premiere of Swamp Dogg Gets His Pool Painted at the Free State Festival. Come holla at me.
What role has the KC community played in shaping who you are as an artist?
I think there's a high level of excellence from a music standpoint here that has really forced me to grow almost by osmosis. So a common saying among like music historians is that jazz was born in New Orleans and it grew up in Kansas City. And a lot of that is because Kansas City does whatever it wants. And when Prohibition happened, Kansas City was like, nah, basically. So all these jazz people came to Kansas City in, the 20s, 30s, post-World War I. And such a scene cultivated, such a talent pool cultivated that spread out into the world. With your like Lester Youngs and your Charlie Parkers and your Count Basie's, and that's still here. And when I moved here, just going to jam sessions was just like, there was a lot I was getting by osmosis just being around people, and it was like I was getting better and I wasn't practicing because I didn't have time. At the time I had a corporate job, and I was also building a touring presence nationally as a rapper, and I didn't have time to like practice trombone wise for a while. But then when I started practicing, it was like I had all these ideas to work with when I started really practicing again. So that's one thing. But the other thing is just the camaraderie and the community around greatness musically. So I had a show in 2019, and a brief bit of background. I played in bands. I said, because I moved 800 miles away from home and was rebuilding. I didn't know a soul when I moved here. I wasn't like in a rush to start my own band. I didn't want to start a band until I had the respect of like the best jazz musicians in Kansas City. And when that happened, thanks in large part to being a part of Brass and Bougie and being a part of Fantastics, and before that being a part of Hearts of Darkness when Hearts of Darkness was a thing, I built that respect. So in 2019 I started my own band, and I was playing shows, and at that point in time I had a rock bottom beginning of the year, and my car was repossessed, didn't have a car, and I played a gig, and some guys I really love who just weren't really up to speed. They weren't really prepared for the gig. And the guy on key bass for that gig is Peter Slamp, who is a world-renowned vibraphonist and piano player, and like very well respected among a lot of jazz legends. And Peter gave me a ride home, and he stopped in my driveway for where I lived at the time, and he was like, "Hey, dude, you're a world-class musician. Stop doing things with people in situations that aren't world-class."
Yeah.
And that was really like a life-changing conversation for me, because I didn't. Sometimes it's really easy to go too hard on playing the humble card and wanting to make sure that you're not like in your own head too much. And it really made me like elevate my thinking on the standard that I hold for myself. And it really changed the game on what I do. And that's an anecdotal story, but that I think is really what this community can be for a lot of people, because there are a number of people here who are based here or spend some time of the year here, and they're all over the world playing with all these legends, and then they can come back and tell you about yourself.
Yeah. And
they will. So I'd say that that elevation factor that was a in love hard conversation. I think there's a lot of that here.
Yeah.
That elevates people. So like the tide rises for a lot of the tide rises for a lot of people who are willing to rise with the tide.
Anime plays a big role in your aesthetic. What was the first anime that really made an impact on you?
Well, a lot of people would say this, but it was definitely Dragon Ball Z. When Toonami launched, I was a wee little tot, but I started watching Dragon Ball Z when Toonami launched. I'd come home from school, I'd watch, I think it was Sailor Moon, and then Dragon Ball Z, and then Gundam Wing, and then Yu Yu Hakusho. And Dragon Ball Z was the stickiest one because those like that, it's a shonen anime, and those are designed to appeal to young and adolescent boys. And there's an adventure thing, and there's like an overcoming the odds thing that really sticks to you, even though some of the stuff in retrospect is kind of corny and drawn out. And a lot of times in these, especially when anime became big in the US, basically the animators would do things to stretch out the story so they wouldn't get ahead of the manga writing.
Right.
But in the case of DBZ, it was like I think Dragon Ball was started in 1983 is when Toriyama started writing it, and then I think Dragon Ball Z happened in the early 90s. So it was well past what was being written. They were just trying to animate it to keep it going because it was immensely popular, like how they did some of the things. But there's an interview with the RZA actually talking about Dragon Ball Z, and he talks about how the plight of the Saiyan on Earth feels similar to the plight of the black man in America, because it's like this alien who people view as like primitive and thuggish, who finds a way to overcome and is so helpful to society and like protecting. In the case of the Saiyans, they protect Earth, and a lot of people have no idea that they are doing what they're doing. They just like think these guys are just like these brutes. Wow. And there's a lot to that. There's a lot to that interview, but Dragon Ball Z was the first one that really got me. The thing that really made me really get into anime in general and be like, okay, I'm a weeb now. I'm watching all this stuff was Bleach, and that was when I was a freshman in college. Bleach really got me, and that was like a gateway, and then I went into like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and Death Note, and then I just kind of went into the whole expanse of things, and I wrote these like secret raps, and a few years down the road I started actually publishing the raps. So
you have spoken before about authenticity. What does that mean to you as a black creative working across so many genres?
I just think it's really important to be yourself. Like, I think it's like not that deep, but also it is. It's not that deep to actually do it. I think doing it is deep in the sense that a lot of creators are trying to be something or do something because that's what you're kind of told to do in a way. You're like inspired by somebody, you start creating, and people are like, oh, well, you should try to be like this or be like him or her and try to say this or say that. And a while ago, I realized that my purpose is just to be the best version of myself. Like, I'm not a power-hungry person. I'm not a money-hungry person. I need to be financially abundant enough to have the impact that I want to have with people and to make the art that I want to make. And I need to be in a position where I'm successful enough with my art to live my life on my own terms, so I'm not beholden to anybody to the extent that I can leave the country for an opportunity if I need to, or I can like fly across the US to go somewhere and I can do what needs to be done. So my take on authenticity is putting myself in a position to build a life around my art and be honest about what I create. And I think that's really important for everyone, because people have different goals, but it's like, what are you doing really? Who are you really as a creative? And are you tapping into that as a creator to make the art that makes the most sense to representing you where you are right now? Yeah. Because where you are right now could be different from where you are 5 years from now. And that's okay. but representing yourself in that moment, I think, is really important for us as creatives, but also for the people who consume and experience what we create. Because one of the more consistent lessons, because I have to be reminded of it constantly, because I'm not actively thinking about it. I'm thinking about the next thing and the next project. I'm constantly reminded that this thing that I do is hitting people in the face in a positive way. There are people who are really impacted by what I say lyrically, and how I move, my energy, my positivity, and I'm literally just being myself. And the more I experience that, the more it encourages me to go harder on just being me where I am and being unapologetic about it. Because also sometimes that's a negative, like for like a small amount of people in a certain situation. Like it's like you're not, you being authentic could position you as a villain for somebody's situation in a particular moment, and you also have to be okay with that. But I think the intent and you trying to be the best version of yourself in those situations matters more than really anything else. Does that answer that question?
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I feel.
Amazing. Do you ever feel pressure to stay in one lane, or has versatility always been part of your identity?
I always feel pressure to stay in one lane, but going back to the authenticity thing, like I'm just myself, and I had some 2015. So 2015 was when I decided, okay, I'm absolutely going to be an artist. I'm gonna figure out how to make it my profession. I'm gonna figure it out. I made a spreadsheet of venues in college towns within a 6-hour radius of Kansas City, which there's a lot.
Yeah.
And then I made a spreadsheet of like anime and video game conventions, and I was like, well, I have a couple viral videos that like, you know, IGN had written about me, and Kotaku's written about me a lot, and like I'm like, okay, I have maybe enough clout to like reach out to some of these conventions to see if they'll book me, and some of them did, and I started building that way, right? But at the same time, I'm in Kansas City. Travis O'Gan and Tech Nine and Chris Calico put together this conference with Hot 103 Jams and Jazz from 64111 Studios. That was like bringing in all these record label execs from all the major record labels, and there were guest artists who were hot. I think I went to 2 years in a row, and very poorly attended. You know, you would think there would be like hundreds of aspiring musicians at this thing, and it was like 30. Yeah. Which was amazing for somebody like me, because I'm like, oh, I can just talk to everybody. Like there was one, the second one I did, Rico Love was one of the guests. Wow. Rico Love, who like wrote all of I Am Sasha Fierce, and like is a prolific songwriter. Had a lot of game went out. So most of that experience was positive, and I got a lot of good information from it. But I talked to an executive from Interscope, and I was like, hey, I just finished grad school, moved to Kansas City. I rap and play trombone. And he said, pick one, because people aren't going to know how to market you if you come in with both. And I listened to him, and that was a really terrible decision. Because at that point in time, I didn't understand, hey, I'm in an off-market town. I grew up in an off-market town. I didn't go to the school that was in the major market town, because I almost went to Georgia Tech, but that was a partial scholarship, and I got a full ride to Alabama. So I've always been in like off-market, like flyover situations. So, you know, I missed I'm gonna go get signed to a major thing. So why not build something off of like the full extent of what I'm doing? And I spent a year just rapping or just playing trombone and separating them, and then I got booked for a show in Orlando summer 2015, and I flew out there, and it was my first time going out of the city I lived in, where everybody in the audience knew everything about me. Like it was that was a new experience, and all of them were like, "Where is your trombone? Why aren't you soloing over your stuff?"
Yeah.
They all knew that I also played, and were disappointed that I didn't have my horn with me, and I was like, I'm never doing that again. And from that point forward, I just embraced wherever I was at the time, which included being a rapper, being a trombonist, singing more, playing stuff for off beats that I made, blah, blah, blah. Every step of my music career, there's been people trying to tell me to like stay in a lane or whatever, but my lane is me. If that is a lane, like sometimes it's very heavily the weeb, anime, nerdcore lane. Sometimes it's not. Like, I'm not really worried about that. I'm concerned with, again, being the best version of myself that I can be at any given point in time, and being honest with what I'm experiencing, what's occurring to me to create at any given point in time, and that's really it.
Yeah. What advice do you give to young artists who want to create something that does not fit in a box?
So I asked that question when I was at university. I was a senior in undergrad, and two things happened. So junior year, unfortunately, this dude has extraordinarily sullied his reputation, and it's awful.
Darn.
But I had dinner with Neil Gaiman when I was a junior in college, and I was one of 3 students who were selected to actually like have dinner with him outside of like the other student stuff he was doing that was larger groups. And at that point in time, I thought I wanted to be like a visual artist as well as a musician, and do like comics and do like video game world design and character design and stuff like that. And I was like worried about form and like the theory around art and stuff like that. And I was lamenting that to Neil, and he literally looked at me and said, "Don't worry about the rules ever."
Yeah.
So that was a game changer. And then the next year, so I would say like, if you are trying to be great at your craft, there's so much that you're already absorbing and exploring and learning that is rule-based and theory-based, that like worrying about it doesn't really make sense. And I've seen a lot of people crash and burn because they're way too cerebral, like they box themselves in instead of just like being free. And there's a risk in being free, and there's more failure in that, but you build more by like embracing that. So I would say, don't worry about the rules. University of Alabama brought Andy Goldberg to campus to speak, and he was, at that point in time, he was one of the lead writers for Family Guy, working for Seth MacFarlane. And again, I ended up being one of the students who was selected to get lunch with him. And this really pissed me off, by the way, this what I'm about to say. So at the time, so I was like, hey, what would you give your younger self when you were my age? What advice would you give? And as a 30-something who is now a professional creative, I hate that question. I hate that I ever asked anybody that question, because it's so fucking corny. But that's what I asked him, and then he pissed me off with his response. He was like, if you consistently work hard and you're not crazy, you'll be very successful. That made me so mad, because I thought he was going to say crazy. Something really profound. That is profound, by the way. But like, at that moment, I'm like, really? That's like really simple. But the older I get, the more I realize that people don't work hard and behave in a way that's cool and not crazy consistently. That's actually like not the most common thing. So and there's a lot of doors that have opened for me because I'm reasonable to work with and marginally talented. And I don't think I'm marginally talented. I think I'm really dope. I genuinely think I'm extraordinary. But in the sense that, like, if I'm being compared to somebody with way more clout, way more numbers, blah, 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 I've gotten in the door over these people because I'm easier to deal with and my demands make sense. Like there's a number of examples for that, but I would say, so the second thing, so like don't worry about the rules, per Neil Gaiman to me and per Andy Goldberg to me, like work really hard and be cool, don't act crazy. Like those are two very, very simple things.
Yeah.
But I think there's like more revelation to both of those concepts the older I get and the further I go in my career.
Have you performed in Lawrence before, and what was it like?
Yeah, so plenty. Done Replay a lot, done Bottleneck a few times. When I was in Hearts of Darkness, we did some stuff in Lawrence, fantastic, done plenty of stuff at Jazz House. Generally speaking, I love playing in Lawrence. I love like reconnecting with like the college town audience because I miss that, you know.
Do you have any other words or wisdom or anything new with Kadesh Flow?
But aside from looking forward to checking out the Swamp Dog documentary and the rest of the film festival, I'm in a thing called Brass and Bougie. It's myself, Kemet Coleman, who's co-founder of Vine Street Brewing, which is the first black-owned brewery in Missouri history. He's also an extraordinary MC and producer and singer. We are in a group with Marcus Lewis, who before this was Janelle Monáe's trombone player, and before that was with the Ohio Players, and has played with Aretha Franklin and Quincy Jones and Bruno Mars and Prince.
Wow.
So Marcus has a big band, which is, you know, a traditional jazz band, like 18 pieces. And basically we are doing the Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra thing as rappers. That's what that project is. But we are opening for Joe, the R&B legend, Joe Thomas. We're opening for Joe Saturday for Kansas City Juneteenth. And otherwise I have just a boatload of stuff coming up. So
Amazing.
all the stuff, all the things.
That'd be so fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I forgot. I was running through Joe's catalog in preparation. I was like, man, I forgot about all these because I was like, you know, I was a kid when he was like on top of the world. But so many earworms. I've got like for a while the Good Girls. The Good Girls song that like, is it me you're looking for? It's just stuck by. Suddenly my sunshine turns to rain. Like it's like just repeating in my head. So anyway, that's what I've got.
It's been Eddie Haith here with Kadesh Flow. It's been a pleasure to talk with him and learn about his career.